The Jaguars defeat the Tennessee Titans 10-6 today. And before we get into this recap, I want to give a huge shout out to this video sponsor, BetUS. And guys, the college football playoffs are set, and you can go ahead and check out spreads for the first round of games. I know I'm definitely excited for this 12-team playoff. And if you are too, and if any of these spreads excite you, you guys can go to BetUS and use promo code YouTube150 for a 150% deposit bonus. I want to give a huge shout out to BetUS. And with all that said, let's go ahead and recap this game. The Jaguars today, the 2-10 Jacksonville Jaguars, went to Nashville to play the Jaguars' hated rival and the Tennessee Titans in an interesting AFC South matchup. Now, the Jaguars win. The Jaguars win for the first time since defeating the New England Patriots in London. And now the Jaguars improved to 3-10 on the season. And now the Titans dropped to 3-10. Now, was this really a win? That is to be debated. Now, going into this game and really the last several weeks, the Jaguars were number one on Tankathon. And I know, speaking for myself, I was rooting for the Jaguars to lose. And honestly, if the Jaguars were to have won, I would have rathered it be in a little more fun fashion, not a 10-6 stink fest. I mean, this game was an awful watch. I mean, if you were just a casual NFL fan and just kind of wanted to watch a game out there, this would be an awful game to watch. Okay. I can't imagine anybody that was not either a Jags fan or a Titans fan or just anybody who has any kind of monetary interest in this game, like if you need to cover either of these teams for whatever reason, ain't no way you're watching this. I know I'm in the Orlando market. That's where I live. And the Jaguars in the Orlando market, they get all the Jaguars away games. Okay. So whenever the Jaguars have an away game, the games are played here in Orlando. I can't imagine anybody that doesn't have red zone actually wanting to say, hey, the only game I have is the Jaguars Titans. I'm going to watch this game. I can't imagine anybody is that much of a degenerate to have wanted to watch this 10-6 slop fest of two bad quarterbacks, two offenses that can't move anywhere, and just two teams that are just not good. Just two not good teams. That's what it was today, and the Jaguars win. And of course, we're going to see how this 1 o'clock window finishes. Now the only other teams with two wins are the Giants and the Raiders. I know the Giants are definitely looking like they are going to lose, and the Raiders and the Buccaneers game was pretty close. I imagine the Raiders will find a way to lose, so the Jaguars will be down on Tankathon. But toward the end of this stream, we'll go ahead and check out what's going on there. But yeah, the Jaguars win this one. The Jaguars were 3-point underdogs actually going into this one, and they win by 4, so at least they covered. But when we go ahead and look at the stats now, of course, Mac Jones got the start of this game. Trevor Lawrence is on the IR, will likely miss the rest of the season. He's actually on the IR due to the shoulder injury. It wasn't due to the concussion, but I imagine everything mixed together. They said, you know what, let's let this guy rest for the rest of the year, and we'll go ahead and ride it out with Mac Jones. And, the Jaguars, I was worried about this stretch of football. The rest of the season, the Jaguars are playing against teams with losing records, and this is the first game against a team with a losing record, and the Jaguars out with and outlast the Tennessee Titans. And, Mac Jones, this game wasn't terrific. I mean, his stats actually weren't that bad. 23 of 31, 220 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, but he had himself 2 interceptions. I mean, he was actually game managing just fine. I mean, the picks came in the first half when he was, I guess, just trying to make things happen. But overall, when it comes to game managing, the guy can check down the ball pretty well. And the guy, even though he had the 2 picks, it wasn't like he necessarily threw the game away, although the picks were pretty bad. The one that he was targeting, Brian Thomas Jr., was pretty horrible, not even anywhere close to anybody. So he gets his first win as a Jacksonville Jaguar. Of course, you feel good for the player, and this is why tanking is tough because, I do want to root for the players. I mean, even though Mac Jones isn't great, I don't hate Mac Jones. And he's a Jacksonville Jaguar. I mean, he's a Jacksonville kid. He grew up in Jacksonville, went to bowls, played with Corky Rogers. I mean, he is as Duval as it comes. But of course, he goes out there and wins his first game in Nashville, in Tennessee. And this is historically not a great place for the Jaguars to play. The Jaguars do not do well in Nashville. Of course, last year with the division on the line, the Jaguars lost in Nashville in Week 18, and yeah, it ended our season. The Jaguars lost the AFC South. The Jaguars, if they won that game, they would have been back-to-back AFC South champions. But right now, we're playing in toilet bowl AFC South games against the Titans. So, the Jaguars, now Mac Jones went and did that. The rushing game wasn't that great in the first half. Let me go ahead and look at the stats because I put out a tweet in the first half. The Jaguars in the first half only had 9 yards rushing. Only 9 yards rushing in the first half. However, the Jaguars did end the game with 70 yards rushing. Tank Bigsby started putting on a little bit. 18 carries, 55 yards, 1 touchdown. Not many great yards per carries. ETN only had 4 carries for 20 yards. ETN got more of the work in the passing game. But you're almost starting to see the baton get handed over to Tank Bigsby, because Tank Bigsby just feels like the better pure running back. And, definitely by the looks of this, I mean, he did everything. Even Keelan Robinson was activated this game. Keelan Robinson is the 5th round running back that the Jaguars drafted from Texas. Didn't see him at all in the offense, but he did get some work in the kick return game. So it's good to kind of see him come back after suffering a toe injury of all things. Man, it's crazy when you see these players have these toe injuries because it puts them out for a long time. But he did get back in the game when it comes to return games, so that was good to see. Brian Thomas Jr., no receiving yards in the first half. However, the second half, he put on, 8 receptions for 86 yards. And I've said so many times that, I'm not in a mode of really cheering for wins anymore, but I do want to see individual players succeed. And if there's any player, if I could choose one player on the Jaguars that I really want to see succeed this year, it is Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr., our first round pick receiver out of LSU, is going to be a phenom one day. Just got to get the right offensive coaching and offensive players around him. He's going to be really good. He doesn't get featured enough in our offense. It just feels like at times he's a stranger in this offense. But then the Jaguars started just manufacturing touches to him, and he made a lot of good things happen. And he's well on his way to having 1,000 yards receiving on the season. I think he needs an average of like 35 yards per game in the next 4 games to be able to hit that target. So he'll be able to get there as long as he doesn't suffer any kind of injury. Then hopefully we can start stacking 1,000-yard seasons for him. Because if you actually look at his history, the Jaguars' history of receivers, I mean, the only players that were actually consistently stacking 1,000-yard seasons were Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell. Outside of that, you have flash in the pans. You have A-Rob with 1,000-yard season. Allen Robinson, I should say, with 1,000-yard season. Allen Hurns with a 1,000-yard season. You have Calvin Ridley with a 1,000-yard season. Just a bunch of players that are kind of flash in the pans, not a whole lot of consistency there. But, DJ Chark had a 1,000-yard season too. We need players to start stacking them. Because like I said, when you look at the list, it's like Jimmy Smith, Keenan McCardell have multiple 1,000-yard seasons. You can't say the same about any other Jaguar wide receiver. So we'll see how that continues to go. Brian Thomas Jr., shout out to him. Definitely one of the better rookie receivers this season. ETN, four catches for 50 yards. A lot of those came in the second half. Evan Ingram, 4 receptions for 33 yards. By the way, Evan Ingram was fined $10,000 last week after getting revenge on Azeez Al-Shaair on the Houston Texans after the cheap shot that Trevor Lawrence took. So, but I'm sure he would be happy to pay that. Maybe even if I were Shad Khan, I'd say, hey, I got this covered for you. No problem. Brent Strange, 1 catch for 21 yards. Parker Washington, only 2 targets, 2 catches, 15 yards. I would have thought we'd see some more out of Parker Washington. It just doesn't feel like last week Parker Washington had a 100-yard game. Didn't really go to him much this game. So, yeah. And defensively, big shout out to Jarian Jones. Jarian Jones had himself a day today. I mean, multiple really good pass breakups. He even had himself a sack in this game off of a blitz. I would say, even though Jarian Jones had himself an interception against the Vikings, it felt like this was a game where, he had the most action. He also had 2 tackles, 3 assisted tackles. He was kind of all over the place, it felt like. Definitely a lot of flashes for Jarian Jones this game. And hey, the Jaguars defense held the Titans to 6 points. The Jaguars defense didn't allow a single touchdown from the Titans defense. So honestly, the Jaguars defense deserves a lot of praise this game, even though the Titans aren't that good offensively. I mean, they should have had a touchdown earlier in the game when Will Levis threw to the tight end and not the wide receiver. I don't know. Will Levis, I don't think is going to turn out to be a good quarterback. And this is another reason why it would have been nice to potentially try to lose this one. Is now like not only are you trying to get yourself a higher draft pick, but also now you're boosting up the Titans now. Now we'll look at Tankathon later, but Titans might be above the Jaguars, and Titans might be looking for a quarterback. The Jaguars might have handed the Titans their next quarterback, as opposed, and you can kind of compare it to the Jaguars back in, what was it, 2009 or 2010? Whenever Andrew Luck was drafted, the Jaguars played the Colts the last game of the season. The Jaguars won that one, and that win handed the Indianapolis Colts Andrew Luck. Now, granted, there isn't an Andrew Luck prospect in this draft, but heck, I mean, Patrick Mahomes was drafted later in the draft. CJ Stroud drafted number 2 overall. Josh Allen, the 3rd or 4th quarterback taken into his draft. I mean, quarterbacks are kind of found, and we'll see if one actually rises to the top of this draft. So, Foye Oluokun led the team in tackles, 5 tackles, 6 assisted tackles. Josh Hines Allen had himself a really nice sack at the end of the half that almost injured Will Levis, but he came back in this game. Only 2 sacks on the day. Also, Mason Smith made a couple of good plays. I saw him out there doing some good stuff. Also, Tyson Campbell, some good coverage this game from him. Also, shout out to Trayvon Walker, 3 tackles. I thought he had himself another good game, a good bunch of good run stuff plays. He continues to be a pretty good pick for the Jaguars. You can debate whether you should have taken Aiden Hutchinson or him, but at the end of the day, they're both still great players. Defensively, that rounds things out. Devon Hamilton had himself a good tackle for loss, even though it's been, I'd say, a pretty disappointing year from him. When you look at the Titans, Will Levis only 168 yards passing. Tony Pollard did surpass 100 yards rushing, so pretty good game from him. Former Jaguar Calvin Ridley, 7 catches for 59 yards. Just weren't giving him the ball very well. And when you look at the breakdown, the Jaguars were actually scoreless through the first 3 quarters. Then they got themselves a field goal and a touchdown in the 4th quarter, and then that's how they won the game. And what's funny is usually after the Jaguars win, they show Doug Peterson in the locker room breaking everybody down. Let's do the Duval chant. But, man, I really want to see what he says to this team after this one. It's just such a weird win, but players don't care about tanking. Players just care about winning and putting good game film on. And when we look at the actual team stats, time possession very close. Jaguars 28 minutes, the Titans 32 minutes. Jaguars had 16 first downs, the Titans had 17 first downs. Total yardage, the Jaguars had 290 yards versus the Titans 272. So pretty similar on that in that respect. So the Jaguars get this there's not really a whole lot to talk about this game because the game just kind of sucked. It was a slot fest between 2 bad teams. This game almost felt like the Tyson versus Jake Paul fight. It's like bad fight, but somebody has to win. They have to give the win to somebody. That's how this game felt, and it's a cheap win. And I wouldn't have even minded winning if the Jaguars won like 42-35, at least win fun, but not win 10-6. This is a cheap win. I know I sound whiny. I know, hey, you beat the Titans, and I like beating the Titans, not going to lie. The Jaguars, at this point, might as well sweep the Titans, right? Jaguars want to know against the Titans this year, get a win in Nashville. Because if we're going to positive spin this, at the end of the year, or at the end, like when you look at franchise records versus other opponents, I mean, there's no context to that, okay? The Jaguars going to add a win to that column. You're not going to, this is the same kind of win as a win in the 90s would have gotten when both teams are pretty good, but whatever, is what it is. I always do like to take a look at Twitter or X, however you like to call it. Take a look at some fan reactions. We have Sean saying, this might be the worst Jaguars team I've seen. 2020 was bad, but this is possibly worse. If anyone ever thought, quote, I really like football, but I don't want to like football. I wish I could start hating football. I encourage you to turn on the Jaguars-Titans game. Yes. True statement never said. This is was just a slot fest to watch. Like I said, I can't imagine anybody that doesn't have a vested interest in either of these teams actually wanting to watch this game. Our Jaguar fans, who we picking fourth? I think that's where we're at right now. Calvin Ridley, Jaguar for life. Mike Simon for today's game. This is my tweet earlier. Yeah, I just wasn't excited at all for this upcoming matchup. The Jaguars held the number one pick heading in today, just beat the Titans, a shakeup in draft order. Yes, it is. The Jaguars win. The Jaguars win. Jacksonville 10, Titans 6. Now, I'm going to take a look to see if any of these other games that the Jaguars, let's see, the New Orleans Giants game has it wrapped up. Ooh, the Giants actually had the ball down 3. They could potentially score. So Tampa did beat Vegas. So I'm going to take an early look at what Tankathon has. I'll go ahead and share my screen because this is what it's all about. We're not looking at divisional standings. We're not looking at AFC playoff picture. We're looking at Tankathon, and boom, the Jaguars dropped to number 5. Ugh, not ideal. Not ideal. At least the Titans are still behind us, but the Jaguars do not hold a tiebreaker with the Patriots and Carolina. And yeah, that's upsetting. It's very upsetting. And the Giants are probably going to lose as well. So yeah, the Jaguars are going to kind of stick right here. The Jets are in a little bit of a dogfight. If the Jets win, if the Jets lose, they're gonna jump us too. They're gonna move the Jaguars move back to number 6. So not actually the Cleveland, they're gonna lose too. So the Jaguars are probably dropping to number 7, which is not good. Which is especially when you have their one pick, you're dropping that many spots. And the Jaguars play the Jets next week. The Jaguars still have another game against the Titans, and the Jaguars play Vegas in 2 weeks. So still plenty of time for losses, but gosh, that's just not good. And I know people are going to comment like, oh, what's losing ever done for the Jaguars? Look, I think the Jaguars clean house. I really do. I know people don't think that about Shad Khan. I know people don't have that much faith in him, but I think he'll do what's right. I think he'll fire everybody, and just having a higher draft pick makes the job more attractive to new GMs, new head coaches. And yeah, the Jaguars give up that spot, unfortunately. Jaguars win after the Titans turn it over on downs. They snap a 5-game losing streak and likely change their draft positioning a little. Jaguars 10, Titans 6. Jaguars moved to 3-10 on the season. And yeah, like what's the max Jaguars can do is 7-10. That's a terrible year. It's a terrible year. But I will say, if you're going to beat anybody, at least beat your division rivals. And now the Jaguars, they're 2-2 in the AFC South. That's kind of funny. They're 500 in the AFC South. Of course, swept by the Texans, and they're 2-0 against other teams. They beat the Colts, still have a game against the Colts left. Beat the Titans, still have a game against them left. And this was me, 4 days ago? Dream scenario is the Jags draft number 1 overall. Raiders and Giants had picks 2 and 3. Each team bids to move in front of us, and the Jaguars were able to move back, add some picks, and draft Travis Hunter. This dream might be over. Maybe not the Travis Hunter dream, but probably the number 1 overall pick dream, because we only have 4 games left. There's very, very little room for error now. The Titans and Jaguars should be exiled to Thursday Night Football for eternity. It's the only way to cure us of these abominations. I don't know why people want to watch us on Thursday Night Football, but okay. Per ESPN research, Jaguars quarterback Matt Jones has now thrown an interception in 7 consecutive games dating back to last season, in which he was starting quarterback. It's the longest active streak in NFL. Yeah. Mac Jones isn't great, but he was good enough to beat Will Levis. Did the Jaguars win? Yes. So we took a look at this earlier. It'll be better to look at this after the 1 o'clock window. Yeah, now Raiders fans are all rooting for the Jaguars wins. Now Vegas has the number 1 overall pick. You guys are welcome. We can't even lose right. Okay? Can't even lose right. There's Mac Jones in an interview. There goes Travis Hunter. That's sad. Very, very sad. With 1 sack in the first half, Josh Hines Allen has posted 4 consecutive seasons with at least 7 sacks. He ties defensive end Yannick Ngakoue for the longest streak of seasons with 7 or more sacks in franchise history. Yeah, so Josh Hines Allen, good player. Good player. Good player. I've never seen a team ignore their best target after a slow start. Brian Thomas Jr. is a ghost. Yeah, like I said, Brian Thomas Jr. no catches in the first half, and then all of a sudden he put on in the second half. Let's see. Jaguars win in Nashville. Will Levis throws 5 straight incompletions in the game. Yeah, and that was funny. Titans got the ball back. What was it? 3 timeouts and no, 1 timeout left, and they didn't move it a yard. They actually moved backwards. So pretty bad stuff, man. It feels dirty rooting for the Titans, but I'm in draft mode. I'm in 20. The Jaguars are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. I am not in regular season mode. I'm in off season mode. And yeah, whatever. You're welcome, Doug Peterson. Hope you enjoy this win. Jaguars defensive end Josh Hines Allen now needs 3.5 sacks to break Tony Bracker's franchise record for sacks. And we were all hoping he'd break this season. He would need basically 1 sack per game the course of the next 4 games. Of course, there's 4 games left in the season. I'm hoping he gets it. Maybe he has 1 game with 2 sacks and makes it a little bit easier the other games, but it would be nice for him to break that. The Jaguars 5-game losing streak is over with an ugly 10-6 win over the Titans, but at what cost? Yeah, not good. Not good. It's as if when you give the ball to Brian Thomas Jr., good things happen. So, yeah. So, the Jaguars win this game. Let's take a look at the upcoming schedule for the Jaguars. Maybe we can kind of preview it a little bit. So, the Jaguars next week at home, they have the New York Jets. Jaguars are actually wearing throwback uniforms. I wish they didn't have to do that. I don't want to look like that in our throwback uniforms, but they'll probably beat the Jets and also improve to 4-10 and continue to ruin their draft spot. But yeah, the Jaguars have the Jets. Then at Las Vegas Raiders, so still a chance for the Raiders to jump us. Of course, I think we hold the tiebreaker there, so that's good. Then at home against the Titans again. Then at Indianapolis. So yeah, there's still plenty of spots to move up in the draft order. It's that awkward time where, like, if you're a college football fan, you always cheer for your team to lose. If you're an NFL fan, you're kind of back and forth, a little bit wish-washy on what you want to do. I think I did a poll in my stream earlier. I think over 60% of fans wanted to lose for the tank, and the rest of them wanted to win. So I think more fans are unhappy with this loss, but hey, we'll see. So that is the recap of today's game. I want to give another big shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video and this channel this football season. 150% deposit bonus using promo code YouTube150 for all your different gambling needs. And with all that said, I'll catch you guys later. Go Jags.